Hello, Trash Talkers.
Hello there.
Welcome to the second episode of the Trash Talking podcast. We're back here to share what we have learned about today's country's sustainability. We brought you the coolest information about sustainability and recycling practices.
We are your hosts, Carolina and Itziar, and we are ready to start today's episode.
We're here to show you that saving the planet can be a blast. Woohoo! So put on your recycling capes, grab a drink in our reusable cup, of course, and get ready for some serious trash talk.
For your knowledge, this podcast is produced by Primus Project, where 12 European organizations work together to recycle plastic for car parts and home appliances. Each episode will be focused on a different country, and we promise to bring very special guests every time.
This second episode of Trash Talking is dedicated to Spain. We will be talking about some interesting facts about Spanish recycling and sustainability, not the great weather and food we have over here. So for today, we have another special guest who will be sharing her experience and opinion with us, Julia Cilleruelo. She is from Spain, but she has been living and working in Germany since 2020. So we are sure it will be an interesting talk.
She works as a sustainability consultant and communications at Greendelta, which is a consortium partner from the Primus Project. Please, Julia, feel free to introduce yourself and welcome to Trash Talking. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for having me. As you well said, I come from Spain. I grew up there, but I spent my bachelor's and master's studying in the University of Durham in the north of England. And with my degree, I specialized in the energy transition as an electrical engineer, and now I work on sustainability, but focused on life cycle assessment. That's what I do. I look at the full life cycle of a product from raw material extraction to end of life to understand where the environmental impact hotspots are and try to mitigate them. It helps with fact-based sustainability decisions.
Nice, so you have a very complete background. I'm sure you'll bring good insights for today's talk. And not only that, the three of us live or have lived in Spain, so we are excited to discover a bit more about sustainability in this country. So let's get started.
We are very happy to have you here for this episode. We are sure it's going to be an interesting chat and also a very different one from the previous episode about Finland. In fact, both countries have completely different strategies to tackle waste management, and we are triggered to get to know all these different experiences around Europe. In Spain, around 57% of waste is dumped in landfills, while 43% is recycled or reused, which is still below the average of the European Union. So let's start with some basics about recycling in Spain. First of all, we should explain to the listeners how Spain separates and collects urban waste.
Well, first, it's important to say that waste collection processes change a little depending on the region of the country, but generally all of them follow the same rules, even though some places end up being more effective than others. In Spanish households, there are generally 7 different containers to separate waste. This is something I would like to highlight, the importance of the citizen's role to separate the waste at home, since everything starts there.
If this is done properly, all the rest will be easier.
Exactly. So anyway, the containers are for plastic packaging, cardboard and paper, glass, organic, batteries, clothes and other waste. The ones for batteries and clothes are special and not frequent containers. They are just emptied once per week or maybe even less often depending on the city. And once the waste is collected, Spain tries to recycle as much as possible in order to turn waste into resources and contribute to circular economy, also by aiming to meet EU recycling standards.
Yes, quite simple to understand how it works. However, you mentioned that the system can be different depending on the region, so I'll further explain the main differences. Unfortunately, you will not find all 7 different containers in every household because not all the cities separate waste exactly the same. So some regions only have 3 containers, for example. Furthermore, in some places, particular containers have special cards to unlock them. This way, they can track if people are nailing waste and separation. And in other regions, the containers are placed in specific days and time slots in the week. Meanwhile, in some places, the containers are permanent residents of the streets. We really don't understand why this happens.
So, related to that, Julia, what do you think that could be improved in the recycling system in Spain? Even though there are aspects perfectly done, there's always something that can be done a little better, right? Like, for example, do you think it would make sense to create a common system of recycling for all those different regions? Or it can also be something related to education, the application of recycled materials. Can you think of something?
Yes, there are definitely a lot of aspects of improvement. Even though Spain has increased the recycling rate in the last decade, the transition has been rather slow. Nowadays, it still doesn't reach the average rate in Europe, but they are working to get closer. For example, the idea of creating a common way for recycling sounds great because it would probably be more convenient for those who will manage it. But would it be possible to implement in places with very different characteristics and needs? That's a good question, and I still don't have the answer, but it's great to lay things like this on the table. I think the first thing that can be improved is to make sure that everybody knows how to recycle. I mean, we need to raise awareness and education on these topics. We need to make sure that people are used to recycling from an early age, and we need to teach that not only recycling but also other sustainable habits are necessary in our daily lives to be implemented. Ever find yourself wondering if you're truly making the most out of the recycled waste? Are we unlocking its full potential, or is there still untaped magic waiting to happen? That's something we have to ask ourselves. This is the first thing that came to my mind when you asked that what can be improved, but I'm sure there are many other aspects.
You're right, raising awareness and education is a must. In fact, it was one of the main goals when starting this podcast. So I agree with you what you just mentioned, but it's true that in order to achieve education regarding the topic and provide valuable information to people, it's essential to have a supportive environment. What I mean by that is that we need to invest time and effort on it, so it's important, for instance, having the government's support.
I completely agree. And also, I believe that this varies a lot depending on the country. In those where time and effort are invested, results are shown, and that's evident.
Yes, now that you are mentioning that, we would like to know your experience about how you lived the difference in waste management and the importance of sustainability in Germany compared to Spain.
Yeah, tell us where were your biggest shocks on this topic when you move abroad, and if there's something that Spain can learn from Germany.
I can compare my home city, Oviedo, with the city of Berlin, where I currently live. In Berlin, there is a lot more circular economy. It is very common to find bags of clothes or boxes with books and other small objects in the street for everyone to look into and to get if they want. The same with furniture, very good standing furniture in the street, for example, in your neighborhood, that you can just take to your place. I have gotten so many things from the streets that were in a perfect state and which I now use in my daily life, in my room. This is definitely not there in Oviedo, in Spain. I think how it happens in Berlin is beautiful. It also means that fashion trends are actually quite different. In Berlin, it is considered very cool to be wearing random second-hand clothes, which is not the case in Spain or Spanish culture.
Yeah, true.
You get some alternative people in bigger cities like Madrid or Barcelona, but that's about it. Also, on another note, coming from Spain, I was surprised at the high percentage of municipal waste, those coming from households, that goes to incineration in Germany. It is one of the big pillars of waste management, which is not the case in Spain. In Spain, landfill is the end station for 43% of municipal solid waste, whilst in Germany, only 9% of the waste goes to landfill, and the rest to to incineration and second life recycling, etc.
Yeah, I didn't know that information either. And personally, I would love to have second-hand items in the street that are in good conditions. It would be super convenient.
I would love that as well. Imagine that I could find the living room table that I have been searching for weeks now. Well, changing topics, we were curious to ask and discuss a topic we talked about in the previous episode about Finland. For those who don't remember, we talked about the Finnish system of returning beverage bottles and receiving back the deposit money with these automated machines. So this method works perfectly well in Finland and in other European countries. I guess also in Germany, right, Julia? We were wondering, shouldn't it be also implemented in Spain? What's your opinion about it?
We also have this in Germany, and actually, I think it would also work perfectly fine in Spain. We have already seen that it's very effective in other countries, and I'm sure that it would have the same impact in Spain. There is a similar initiative in Spain called Reciclos or Recyclos. Have you heard about it?
No, I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, me neither. Can you tell us more about Reciclos?
It's a project from Ecoembes that wants to incentivize plastic packaging recycling. It's simple. You download the app, scan the barcode of your water bottle or can, and scan the QR code of the plastic container, and voila, that's it. You receive tokens that give you access to different prizes, such as giveaways of tablets, bicycles, and electric skateboards. The project's quite new and it is not extended around all cities, but if you find a QR code in a plastic container, it is probable that it is related to recyclers.
I will start seeking the QR codes in the plastic containers now, and I'll let you know if I find any. Hopefully, establishing this return back system will become a reality sooner than later.
Listening to the solution of Recyclos, I have the feeling that the rewarding method is quite different. What could serve a bigger motivation booster for citizens, Julia?
Yeah, the Finnish and German systems have an important factor that I believe would be a great motivation for Spanish citizens. And that is the economic incentive. The fact that you can get the deposit money back would be the more efficient way to convince customers to return the bottles and cans. This is also one of the most common types of waste that we see thrown away in the streets. So the method would promote recycling and collection of single-use plastic beverage items around the park, for example, around the streets, around our city, the place we live in. I believe it's a straightforward solution rather than the tokens. Actually, it is rare in Germany to see glass bottles or cans or plastic bottles in the streets as litter, as they are usually collected to get back the deposit. A glass bottle is 80 cents, and a plastic bottle is 25 cents of a euro. A lot of people with no jobs end up collecting them. Such a system ensures this type of waste is collected and also separates the products from the rest of the waste system from the start, ensuring that more recycling is happening.
Yeah, for sure, an economic incentive is a better solution than tokens for prices.
Yeah, I agree. Let's keep going with some facts about sustainability in Spain. For example, we found out that 25% of people between 16 and 34 do not recycle their waste at home. Those over the age of 55 are the most committed to recycling, and surprisingly, the least committed are the youngest generations. We reflected on the topic for a while and wondered why this happens. Shouldn't young generations be aware of the current environmental situation and therefore the importance of separating the waste at home? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yes, I'm always surprised when I hear that young generations are the ones who recycle the least. In other situations, I have also seen youth very committed to sustainability, of course, since they have probably received the most education and information regarding the topic from an early age than people from that are 55 years old, for example. I would like to believe that there are other reasons why they don't take action, but honestly, I don't know exactly what those reasons are. There is still a lot of work to be done in educating the younger generation on sustainability from an early age, which relates to what we talked about earlier. Hopefully, we can reach some of those people with channels like this podcast.
Yup, you're right. Hopefully, we can find more people through the channel and boost a little bit more the sustainable habits. Although Europeans are increasingly aware of taking care of the environment, surprisingly, young people seem to be less informed than older ones. This is one of the conclusions of the new survey commissioned by the Friends of Glass platform, in which 8,000 Europeans of 11 countries had been surveyed. The data reveals that the difference in knowledge and also in behavior between young and older people occurs in all countries. Specifically in Spain, this difference stands at 27%, the highest of the countries participating in the survey, compared to 7% in Italy. As a representative of Friends of Glass in Spain, Karen Davis highlights, and I quote, "Concern for the environment should continue to be one of the priorities for the social agenda, and within it, we must continue to be installing in the younger generations."
Well, she's right, and I'll tell you more. Spanish citizens should also be aware not only about recycling plastic and cardboard. In fact, Spain is the world's leading producer of olive oil and is also one of the largest consumers with a total of more than 500,000 tons and almost 12 liters per person. Something important to mention is that a liter of used oil thrown down the drain can contaminate 1,000 liters of water.
As we say, madre mía.
Yeah, but that's why we also have an extra special container for oil recycling.
I know that the new Spanish law of waste and contaminated soils of 2021, it had become tough with the collection of oil pollutants. The articles of this new regulation establish the obligation to collect used cooking oil from homes as of December 31st of 2024. So we will see more dropping points in Spanish cities and villages.
For example, Madrid has more than 7,000 bins for plastic, a similar number for paper, and just over 450 for recycling used oil, including fixed and mobile collection points. The Environmental Association points out that among the difficulties that the citizens encounter when recycling used oil, the need for a greater number of containers stands out.
To all Spanish listeners,
pay attention, please.
do not pour oil down the sink. It can contaminate huge amounts of clean water and lead the sink to clogging. Check out the nearest oil container and pour it there till all municipalities add more containers to the cities.
Focusing on waste and how to save it, let me tell you about the amazing initiative Tal Cual. Tal Cual in Spanish means as it is. It is a service that reduces the food waste that brings to your house imperfect fruits and vegetables rejected by large storage, from the field straight to your house. The founders of this initiative, Oriol and Mark, discovered that a large amount of food waste is created by the failure to comply with the current beauty standards of large stores for fruits and vegetables.
Do we even have beauty standards for fruits? I love this initiative you brought to the episode, Carolina, because Tal Cual has the mission to eliminate food waste and build a better food system for all. We can consume small and large pieces with imperfections as well.
So true, it's here. Nature is intelligent, and in each season, the earth provides us with the food that our body needs according to the season, climate, and location. Tal Cual also supports the proximity of the products, bringing the fruits and vegetables near your home.
This also reminds me of another great initiative called Too Good To Go. Even though it's not a Spanish initiative, it works perfectly well both in Spain and globally. Too Good To Go is all about rescuing leftover food from restaurants, cafes, bakeries, and other food establishments that would otherwise end up in the trash. So how does it work? You download their app and browse through the list of participating businesses near you. Then these businesses offer up their excess food at discounted price right before closing time, so it's a win-win situation.
So Julia, have you tried Tal Cual or Too Good To Go? Or maybe you can tell us about another initiative that saves food waste in Spain that we should learn about.
Actually, I have seen it and also heard about some friends that have tried Too Good To Go, but never have tried it myself. Personally, I find that going that far disturbs my day that is already very busy. In my opinion, it is more accessible to get the discount products in the supermarket directly, or maybe pass by a restaurant or bakery that has cheaper price closer to closing times.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. You need to find what's most convenient for you, and you will probably end up adapting those sustainable habits to your daily life.
Alright, let's get creative and shake things up with some unique tips to contribute to recycling and sustainability.
I love this section of the podcast.
Yeah. Julia, can you please give our audience some tips to contribute to the planet's sustainability?
Consume less. We have to change our way of thinking and try to find pleasure in things that are far from consuming. Something that I did with my friends the other day was a clothing swap party. This might be an intermediate step between still getting the thrill of new things, but at the same time not contributing to the demand. Ideally, we move away from desiring new things, but for the time being and how we already work, we can say goodbye to the same old wardrobe and embrace the thrill of a clothing swap party. So gather your friends, raid your closets, and trade those pre-loved garments. It's like a shopping spree without spending a dime, and it gives new life to clothes that would have otherwise have been forgotten. Plus, it's fantastic way to bond and refresh your fashion game and be with your friends. We had fun, my friends and I.
You are so creative. I love it. I want to organize a clothing swap party right away.
Yeah, should we organize one at the office?
Yes, please. Sustainability and recycling are all about being creative and finding joy in making a positive impact. So let's dive into these unique tips and implement them in our everyday life. Alright, everyone, it's time to wrap up this second chapter of the Trash Talking podcast. But before we go, we want to give a big shout out to all trash talkers out there rocking the sustainable lifestyle. We gave a lot of percentages and data in this episode.
Yeah, we did. And if you're interested in seeing the sources, you can check the podcast description. So, we hope you've had a good time diving into the world of recycling tips and sustainability adventures with us. Remember, every small action counts, and together we are making a difference.
Thank you, Julia, for being with us today and giving us wonderful tips and initiatives that we will start applying right away.
Hopefully, we can have you again in another episode of the podcast. We love and embrace your creativity and good vibes.
Well, thank you a lot for inviting me and for your work in the podcast. Looking forward to the next episodes.
Stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll uncover more recycling gems and share exciting stories from the Netherlands. We'll continue to bring you the most updated and interesting content to keep you inspired for your recycling journey.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
See you. Bye.
This podcast series is funded by the European Union. Views and opinions expressed are, however, those of the authors only and do not necessarily reflect those of the European Union or HADIA. Neither the European Union nor the granting authority can be held responsible for them.